the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.
Today, I had the pleasure of speaking to Rebecca Minkoff for the second time on Business Rockstars. Rebecca is the founder of Rebecca Minkoff and the co-creator of the Female Founder Collective, an organization that is dedicated to enabling and empowering female-owned and led companies. Rebecca shares her inspirational journey from starting out as a brand new fashion designer to growing into a global brand. Rebecca gives tips on how we can support small businesses during these turbulent times, gives amazing branding tips to new startups and entrepreneurs, and amazing advice to female founders who are just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey. Whether you're a seasoned business owner or a new startup that is just fresh off the ground, you will really enjoy this interview. Rebecca, so tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. You're a serial entrepreneur, fashion designer, mentor, founder, mother. The list kind of goes on and on. Let's start with your early days as a designer, even though you still are a designer. But tell me what it was like kind of starting your brand.
So I started my brand out of my fifth floor walk up. I obviously had great dreams of being a designer and selling in lots of stores and boutiques. And I had my stuff in two boutiques. I made everything myself. And I had made this t-shirt after being on this trip in the Bahamas. And I loved how all the shirts were cut up and with all the beads on them. But I thought I really want to do this for my home city, New York City. So I came home and did that. And enough people liked it that through word of mouth, an actress wore it on Jay Leno, and the rest is definitely not history, but that was the beginning. And I made that shirt every day for 9 months. I would bike down to Canal Street, negotiate with one of the gentlemen who sold them, and then go back to my apartment and just make that shirt. So it definitely didn't make me rich. Definitely didn't pay the bills, but it did give me the opportunity to walk into a store or call up a store and say, "Hey, I have other things. Do you want to take a look?"
And you were 21 at the time, right?
I was 21, yes.
And after your brand really started gaining traction and other stores started to take more clothes besides just the t-shirt, what was kind of that first step you took to really launch Rebecca Minkoff?
Well, I knew that I couldn't do it by myself. And so after a thorough hunt in the garment center, I found a gentleman who had a very small studio. It was probably 100 square feet where he would actually help me make everything so I could focus instead of making everything, which would take up the bulk of my day, on having him do that. And then I was able to take meetings to start working on press. And back then, it was a whole different world than it is now. So I had to be out there. I had to be meeting people. I used to joke that business cards were like cash to me. If I got a contact, it was so much more valuable than anything I could do that day. So that was what I focused on.
And where did you get your inspiration from when you were first starting out?
My inspiration, man, I mean, just being young and in New York City was excitement enough. When I had my first opportunity to travel overseas, that opened the vistas to where it became a huge source of inspiration as the brand got more mature. Because anytime I'm around a new culture, seeing new things, meeting new people, seeing how ideas are done differently, that's always really inspiring for me.
And you officially incorporated in 2005. You were still a new company right before that recession hit. What kind of business decisions did you make before the recession hit that kind of helped you survive?
I think that the decisions we made, and again, these weren't strategic decisions, it was just how we had to do it, we were the first brand to really talk to our customer. We were the first brand to truly be on social media. So having that relationship and dialogue with our consumers so early on, when this was all just getting started, really helped us, because when the recession hit, it was about who your customers knew, who they trusted, who they felt safe with, and honestly, who was being real. And there was this idea at the time, which maybe I'll sound crazy when I say this, that you shouldn't talk to your customer. We were literally told that, don't talk to your customer. You should be better than her. You should be in some ivory tower. And so for us to talk to her was breaking a lot of rules, but it was the way that we could authentically connect. And so that really helped our business actually stay afloat during that time because we did crowdsourcing before that was a term. I would go meet these women as often as I could. So that really strengthened a bond that is invaluable.
And I'm sure in a way that kind of led you to the Female Founder Collective because, you're approachable and you have all of this amazing community of women. For those who are not familiar, tell us about the Female Founder Collective.
Sure. So launched it at the end of 2018, mostly out of a few ideas. I was frustrated that the women on stage were few and far between, often getting asked, what's it like to be a female founder, as if we're rare breeds. I was saddened by the echo chamber of women just talking about the wage gap and not seeing any change. And I was lonely as a founder. I have great friends, but they can't support me when it comes to making really key business decisions. So, how could we form a community? How could we form an education platform that gives all of the things you didn't know you needed to know when you started a business? How can you give those to women taught by other founders? So, my co-founder Allison Wyatt and I really have built this out to be not just a community, but a place you can turn to for education. And I think it's important to say that we've also had incredible partners that have come in that see the value in supporting women, that see the value in helping a small business meet its goals. And so we've been able to partner with companies like Capital One on an incredible event we did during Black History Month where we celebrated Black excellence. So it was an event just for Black women founders, really taught to you by Black women founders. And so we love doing those events because we can really get granular by surveying with our community what do they need and what are their pain points.
Yeah, and you're really passionate about aiding small businesses, especially during such a turbulent time, the pandemic we're in right now. Like you said, you partnered with Capital One and Small Unites. So, what can we do as a community? What actionable steps can we take right now to help small businesses?
There are so many, and they're all really easy. That's the beautiful part of this. If you head to smallunites.org, you can donate to a business, you can share and celebrate a local business. We all have this phone in our hands. It's very easy to click something and get it tomorrow. Rather than doing that, take the extra 5 minutes, find a small business, maybe in your community, find a women-owned business and buy from them. It makes a huge difference. And as we look to the reopening after the pandemic, the best thing we can do is to celebrate and support these small businesses.
And back in the early days, right, when you were starting your line, um, what kind of challenges did you face as a young designer, and how are they different than the challenges that you face today?
So I think there's certain things that never go away. I think early on challenges were financial, right? We couldn't get a bank loan. We weren't raising money. It wasn't something that was necessarily done then. And so we had to fund the company on my co-founder's credit card. And when that ran out, on his house, he actually mortgaged his house.
Wow.
But what it did is it let us own the company for far longer than most. So by the time we did sell a chunk of the company, we still maintained majority control and we could determine our destiny, as so many unfortunate brands don't get to do that. Um, that's still a fun problem to solve to this day. Just because you're bigger doesn't necessarily mean you don't have cash flow issues or times when you're gearing up to ship product that hasn't arrived yet or there's a clog at the port. So, in unanticipated circumstances, sometimes can be really stressful. Um, Early on, getting your name out there was difficult. You had to be out all the time, meeting editors, meeting your customers. That's gotten easier as social media has sort of flattened and democratized everything. But it also makes it that much more important that you have a very clear message and you know exactly who you're targeting.
Yeah, that's so important. And right now, let's say you're a small business and you're starting in an oversaturated space, let's say. What tips would you give that small business owner who might just be selling to a mom and pop shop right now and wants to get into big retailers?
So I would say proceed with caution. Everything from the outside looks extraordinarily sexy. I'll never forget this. I wanted to be in a big department store. My showroom representative said, "You're not ready. You need to have 500 specialty stores so that you have enough brand awareness so that when a woman walks in and she sees left and right every single luxury with their full-blown retail experience, that when she turns around and sees this little sign, this big, that should be like, oh, I'll buy her instead of, fill in the blank. And I didn't believe her. And so early on, I sold to a department store and I took every single one of those bags back. And it wasn't until we hit 500 specialty stores that the name recognition alone could carry me being in a big box retailer. So do your research, look for places that will give you a fair deal and a good margin. There's always a honeymoon phase and then reality sets in. And if you can get really good at building your own direct to consumer channel and then the rest is gravy, that's what I would recommend to anyone today.
That's really good advice. What are you looking for in the women founders who are part of the Female Founder Collective?
So currently today, the membership is free and open to women who have businesses that are actually selling a product or a service. So they're not pre-launch. And we want these women to own at least 51% of their company, again, determining its destiny. I do think that as we're looking to augment the membership and add in some other incentives, if someone did have a healthy exit and only retains a small ownership going forward, that will not prohibit them from joining the collective.
And what's the biggest benefit that you've seen in the Female Founder Collective once women are really supported by women? How have you seen kind of these businesses grow and flourish?
I think I've seen the incredible pairing of co-founders meeting each other. We've had a cohort of over 50 women that went on to raise over $15 million in a pandemic for their businesses through the education we provided, but also through their networking and their share of deal flow. And I've seen women get customers through this community. So I think, it can't be overstated that community network, women supporting women, consumers supporting women makes huge changes. To everyone's lives.
What do you think one of the best pieces of advice has been that you've been given throughout your career?
I think the best piece of advice that I've been given has been to get back up. We are all going to encounter setbacks, failures, challenges that you don't think are overcomable or insurmountable. And if you get back up every day and you attack it and you see why it's not working and look it in the face and take it apart and look at it as a puzzle, I think that alone can determine success sometimes.
Let's say there's a founder who's listening who wants to do what you did, right? Start their own clothing line and fashion line. And they just have a dream. They have no capital. And they have maybe one t-shirt, just like, when you started out. What advice would you tell them?
I would say launch your Instagram, head on to Shopify and start this account and, spend the bulk of your time creating the story, the content, reaching out to people. I think that sometimes small businesses don't take advantage of the fact that big companies and or big influencers, they constantly need newness. They need to showcase that they're finding the newest, hottest, latest. So, get cozy in the DMs of all the people that you think are the right demographic for your customer. Launch an ambassador program. There are plenty of companies that have launched with no product, but rallied a community around the idea of what that product could be. That you might not know who Mary Sue is in Iowa, but she knows 25 women who need that shirt. And she's going to be your best, voice and proselytizer that could be. So finding those type of women, giving them a shirt in exchange, it makes them feel good. It gives them something to say they found and discovered. And I think you could see a lot of early success that way.
And where do you see the Female Founder Collective in the next 5 years?
I think that where we see the Female Founder Collective going in the next 5 years is we are launching a paid membership portion to the website where you are going to be put into groups of women who are at your same size and stage, who can give you the benefit of what they've just gone through or are about to go through. We're definitely going to be continuing the education that we have, whether it's through our events or our weekly, daily webinars. And I think the goal is that we want to see this seal on millions of products. We want the consumer to see the seal and go, oh, women, yes. And I think that the way that you've seen corporate America rally around supporting Black businesses, let's get corporate America and the world to rally around also supporting women-owned businesses. We're 51% of the population. We're responsible for $1 trillion in spending, and we should get a lion's share of that purchasing power.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. If you think back, what was the biggest mistake that you made, whether it was when you were first starting or along the way? And how did you either pivot or kind of come out the other side stronger?
The biggest mistake we made in the beginning was thinking that we had to follow the rules. We had to do what everyone else in fashion was doing, follow the crowd. And we were scared, even though we did make a lot of decisions to not follow them, we were scared. And when someone pointed out to us, like, look at what you did with See by Wear, look at what you did with wearables, technology in your stores, flipping the fashion calendar, all these things, he said, you always saw success. So I think in not following the rules, that's where we win. And I wish I could have just done that without the nausea stomach that I would experience each time we were about to do something crazy.
And like I said, you're a founder, serial entrepreneur, mother. Do you believe in work-life balance? How do you kind of, especially the pandemic, right? I'm sure you've been at home a ton. How do you balance work and life and doing it all?
I definitely don't believe in the term balance. I think it is a term that has been aimed at women to make us feel like we're failures for not doing it all.
Mhm.
And I always like to make the example, although extreme, men never had balance. Back in caveman times, men never had balance. They had to go out and get killed in order to bring home dinner. I
Right.
wouldn't call that exactly a balancing, comfortable situation. So I think that we have to throw out the term. I think that technology has obviously helped us uh, move mountains in terms of being able to succeed in business, but also made it so that we're always available. So I think, I've learned to set boundaries. Although uncomfortable, I've learned to say no to things. I didn't always feel that way. But as I've gotten older and more established and, seeing my kids being young, made sure to set boundaries. And I think the pandemic has done both. In the beginning, everything was crazy for everyone. So the empathy with anyone was there. And I think that as we're coming out of the pandemic, I hope that empathy stays so that people understand when you have to go pick up a kid because they sneezed at school or want to see their kid, run a track, run at track. So I'm hoping that that empathy will lead to more women feeling comfortable that we can work, we can play, we can have kids. And sometimes we'll be awesome at one and suck at the other, and that's okay too.
And what advice do you have for branding a business? Because branding is so important, how you position your business early on. Do you have any tips or tricks? What's in your toolbox?
Yes. So I'm going to tell you all the things we didn't do early on because we just didn't even have time, to think about it. But figure out what your brand aesthetic is, right? Who do you want your customer to look like and be? What visuals do you want to show to her? And then who are you as a brand? Who are you as a founder? What do you stand for? What outside of the product you have is larger than you that you're going to be known for, whether it's a charity or environmental causes? Because I think people want to know that the money they're supporting by giving it to that person is really key on where they stand on a lot of issues. I would also say, have a consistent look and feel that that the audience who's buying into you, who wants to come discover your website or your Instagram, is always going to be surprised and delighted, but you stay consistent with what you offer them and with how you offer to them. So you're never talking in slang one day and then one day, speaking like you've written a literary novel. So I think those are small things that someone can do to sort of make sure that whatever their unique stamp is, if it's a white shirt, that they have the most unique point of view on that white shirt.
Let's say someone's listening to this interview and they're thinking in their head, I would love to start my own business, but easier said than done, right? Let's say they have a family at home and they're, the full support system. What's, what's one small step instead of just saying, just do it? What's like one small micro step they can take?
I think it depends where they're at. Do they make a prototype? Do they survey it with their friends and family? Do they get a small focus group of strangers that they don't know? I used to go out to Union Square and pass out postcards to send people to these boutiques. I learned a lot from being amongst my customer. So if you can get those access to those opinions, those thoughts and feelings, it really helps shape what you do next, and hopefully the outcome is successful.
That's great advice. Where can people learn more about you as a founder? Where can people learn about the Female Founder Collective?
You can follow me at Rebecca Minkoff. You can head to my site. I have a book coming out June 15th. It's called Fearless: Unlocking the New Rules for Creativity, Courage, and Success. And as far as the Female Founder Collective, you can head to our Instagram at the Female Founder Collective, or to our site, which is getting a whole new facelift in the next couple of weeks. But if you sign up, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. And I do also want to point out that there are so many, I know, small businesses listening. If you need resources immediately, there are incredible resources on the smallunites.org hub to support founders, to support entrepreneurs, especially right now. So don't hesitate to take advantage of that, because the information's invaluable.
Well, Rebecca, thank you so much. You gave such great advice for all the entrepreneurs listening. And I'm so excited to read your book.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to my amazing guest, Rebecca Minkoff. This is Business Rockstars.